Fox 32, the Lincoln Forum, and the Chicago Bar Association present the Chicago Mayoral Forum with your hosts, Fox 32's political editor Mike Flannery, Scott Schneider, and Anita Blanton, live from the Union League Club in Chicago.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Chicago Mayoral Forum. All 9 of the candidates for Chicago Mayor are here this evening. We're grateful that you ladies and gentlemen have agreed to answer our questions. Our own Fox 32 Chicago morning anchor, Anita Blanton, will be in the audience. She will be asking questions from the audience and elsewhere. And Scott, take it away.
Yeah, we've instructed our candidates to keep their answers between 30 and 45 seconds. Now, timekeeping via our very low-tech bell, and any responses are at the discretion of the moderators. Mike, let's get started.
All right. Mayor Lightfoot, let's start with the incumbent. There has, of course, been the pandemic, and there was the unrest following the killing of George Floyd almost 3 years ago. Still, you did promise in 2019 to reduce violent crime. Serious crime here was up 40% last year. What's going wrong?
Well, look, I think that the most important thing that we have to keep working towards is making Chicago the safest big city in the country, and I'm not going to be content until that happens. We know that Chicago is not the only major city that suffered a surge in crime following the murder of George Floyd. I believe that we've made significant progress, but I also recognize that while homicides are down 14% year over year, shootings are down 20%, carjackings are down 10%, people in the city still don't feel safe. And so everyone in our city deserves to be safe because they are safe. So what have we done? We've worked on making sure that we take more handguns and illegal guns off the street. We've worked on making sure that we provide more police, particularly in areas of the city that are suffering most.
Alderman Sawyer, the city has hired more police officers, but last year we lost ground in terms of staffing up the police department because so many officers departed. What would you do to stem the rising tide of crime?
To stem the rising tide of crime, first thing we would do is get a new leader. That's the first thing we would do, and we'll do that immediately. After we do that, we want to make sure that we implement what's already been put in place. I'm proud to be a part of sponsoring the most advanced public safety reform in the country right now with the community commissions. We want to make sure those community commissions are put in place, which they'll be after February 28th. Then once they're put in place, our effort is to connect with the community, make sure that we reestablish that trust that's needed so that we can increase our clearance rates and reduce crime. That's what we'll do right away, and I'm proud to be a part of that and excited for it to happen coming up soon.
And those community posts will actually be on the ballot.
That's correct.
Along with the mayor and members of the city council. So
Yes.
Congressman Garcia,
and you're welcome.
As you answer this question, include, if you can, your thoughts about why the violence has increased and why serious crime is up. Armed robbery, carjackings, and auto theft. Why is it up?
So people across neighborhoods in Chicago say that it hasn't been this bad in decades, and I think they're right. It's up because of the pandemic and then the civil unrest. There's a sense that the city is adrift. That's why we need a new leader at the Chicago Police Department, but we also need to ensure that the department is fully staffed and funded, and that the consent decree, the roadmap to modernizing policing and ensuring, for example, that we're data-driven and that we move citywide units into the neighborhoods for patrol, to form relationships, to build trust, to have accountability. That's what's gotten away from Chicago. This isn't the way that it used to be. People want to return there. If we invest in violence prevention programs, we have among the best in the nation. That is another approach to getting at the root causes.
J-Mal Green, records show us that when a resident on the south side or the west side calls 911, oftentimes the response time from CPD lags when it comes to somebody on the north side. calling police. You've got a $5 billion safety plan. How can you ensure in the future that if somebody in Bronzeville or in Austin calls police, they can rely on the same response time as someone, say, in the Gold Coast?
Well, very simple. We got to do what works. And what you're going to hear from a lot of the politicians up here are the same old political rhetoric that they've been using for many years. We're tired of politicians telling us lies just to get in office and using these seats as ego projects. We have to do what works. And let me tell you what works. If we have a department full of social workers that are responding to the 40% of mental health calls, it makes sense. If we have a youth intervention department so that there are interventionists to help put young people on the right path, and mobile intervention departments, to a mobile unit to go and grab young people and partner them with the opportunities, whether it's mentoring organizations, whether it's the 50,000 manufacturing jobs that are open. We got to do what works and invest in a block club infrastructure program so that we can organize the city of Chicago and make people on their blocks the first responders.
Sophia King, your constituents in the 4th Ward have told you plain and simple they would feel safer on city streets if there were more cops in your ward. It's easy to stand up here and say, and all of these candidates have said, we need more police. It's another thing to fill the more than 1,000 open positions. Give me your best recruiting ploy to bring more cops to Chicago.
So listen. We have a plan that puts up to 50% more officers in the communities, all communities, day one. The mayor should be using this right now. We can put up to 50% more officers in our communities by going to 4-day on, 3-day off shift, so the officers can get the rest, the mental health rest that they need. We can do that day one. We can also do what New York does. They have retired officers, 4,000 retired officers. Our plan, called the Chicago Reserve, talks about bringing 1,000 retired officers right now. We can pay for that in the budget that we have. They don't need their pension. They don't need their health care. They have that. They can work part-time during surge times. We can use them so that we don't pull officers out of the community where they're needed the most.
Cam Buckner, you have accused both the mayor and Superintendent Brown of creating specialized units within CPD, similar to what we've seen in Memphis, that Scorpion unit tied to the death of Tyree Nichols. If you are the mayor, will you disband those units, even if they are proving to make a difference in some of Chicago's most violent neighborhoods?
You can look at our murder rate, and you can tell today that those units are not making the difference that they should. These units don't have the semblance of integrity that you get when you know a community and when you police them in a way, when we talk about beating integrity through that. And we got to make sure that we are putting folks in a position to know the community they serve. I also will say this, there comes a point where more is not better, more is just more. And the answer to this is not just more police, but it's about doing the things and creating the leadership that can put the people in Chicago in a place where they feel safe. And so listen, we talk about real community safety, we talk about making sure that people feel like they're being served and protected, not occupied. That starts on the ground level so communities can actually feel like they're a part of the solution.
Willie Wilson, you've talked often about the heartbreak you felt when your 20-year-old son got involved in drug gang violence and was shot dead. What specifically would you do to prevent other young men from facing that fate?
Well, I'm trying to do it right now, replace this mayor. Yeah, first thing. This particular mayor here don't even know she got a problem. You can't fix a problem unless you know you got a problem. If she's, I wouldn't have 80 to 91 police officers around me while my citizens are too afraid. We'll take the handcuffs off the police officer, put them on the truck, and we'll redo this whole situation. Here, we'll verify all the things that they do. We'll bring back the retirement police for a little while. And after we do that and get the problem fixed, we'll do that. Pay police officers more money, and once and for all, we will make crime illegal again.
Brandon Johnson, the researchers tell us that more than 400,000 911 calls did not get a police response recently, and including tens of thousands of calls that claimed to be an assault in progress. The vast majority of the candidates here say they will fill the vacancies in the police department. You won't pledge to do that. Isn't that just going to leave the response times perhaps even worse than they are now?
We need public safety right now. Do you know how long it takes to become a police officer in the city of Chicago? Anywhere from a year to up to 18 months. We can't afford to wait. That's why I've put forth a public safety plan that's really an investment plan. So we deal with the immediate crisis, right, where we promote within the rank and file.
The immediate crisis is the failure to answer 911 calls when somebody's beating you up or robbing you.
Again, what I'm saying is that, to my point, Mike, we need public safety right now. By the time we hire our first police officers, if we can even find 1,000 of them, I'll halfway be through my first term. That's why my public safety plan is an investment plan. We're going to promote within the rank and file so that we can have 200 more detectives to actually solve crime. We're actually going to move with all expediency and spend to actually implement the consent decree. It's why we're investing in youth employment, because there's a great predictor between youth employment and violence reduction. My public safety plan is an investment plan.
All right, Paul Vallis, several of your rivals suggest that hiring more police either isn't feasible or it's going to take too long or it's just a bad idea, yet you make it one of the centerpieces of your campaign. Why?
Well, look, we're 1,700 police officers down from 2019, and 406,000 911 calls did not have a car available, including 32,000 assaults and batteries in progress. There is a lack of police officers. I believe that if you replace the current superintendent, if you return them to a normal schedule, if they know they're going to have the right support, I believe you will be able to slow the exodus of officers while filling the ranks. And then if you bring back retired officers and invite officers who have transferred to other districts to come back without penalty, I believe you will quickly fill the ranks, and then you will be able to push the officers down so you have not only beat integrity, but you also have Chicago police officers walking the CTA platforms and at the CTA stations.
All right, speaking of the CTA, our colleague from Good Day Chicago, Anita Blanton, has a question now.
Well, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening to the candidates and to our guests here in the audience. I have your questions tonight, and we are going to begin with the CTA. Candidates, you'll have about 30 seconds to answer these questions, and there's not going to be a rebuttal. Each person will answer the same question. The question is about the end of federal COVID-related funding, to be exact. How will CTA function without federal funding? Congressman Garcia.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think, there we go. Thank you. First of all, the federal government came through for the Chicago Transit Authority, for Metro, for other transportation agencies, as well as keeping the city budget afloat. That's why we're in a relatively good position. Moving forward, it will be incumbent upon the mayor to reach out to the transit agencies and have a hard conversation about how we get people to come back and probably anticipate lower ridership levels for the immediate future. This entails reimagining how transit will work in the metro area. As a member of the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, I will lead that process.
Thank you. Alderman Sawyer.
One of the things that we really have to do is work on increasing our ridership. It's both responsible and it's environmentally correct. We want to make sure that when we do that, we want to make sure the trains and buses are clean, safe, and reliable. Obviously, cleanliness speaks for itself. We want to make sure that we can replace the non-police officers, non-law enforcement officers on there with sworn officers, and make sure that when you look at your phone and the bus tracker says that the bus or the train is going to be there, it actually will be there.
Mayor Lightfoot.
Well, the fact of the matter is there's not going to be a fiscal cliff for the CTA, because the CTA, understanding that this infusion of federal dollars is short-term, has budgeted in the out years to make sure that there are sufficient funds. But let's be honest, public transportation, mass transportation, all across our country for years has been underfunded. We need a Congress that is committed to fulfilling, I think, the desires of the Biden-Harris administration to provide more funding to public transportation like the CTA, because it's a lifeblood of our cities.
Thank you. Paul Vallis.
There is a fiscal cliff. Right now, the fare box is 18% of the operating costs. That's down from 46%. That's a fiscal cliff. When COVID money runs out, the system's going to be broke. What do you have to do? Public safety. WBEZ reported that half the riders feel that riding the CTA is unsafe. You've got to prioritize public safety. I would get rid of the $100 million that's being spent on private security, and you could hire another 300 police officers to supplement the police officers that are there. So you had beat integrity on the CTA. That means police walking the platforms and at the stations.
Thank you. Brandon Johnson.
Yeah, by year 2025, there is a $700 million fiscal cliff that we already know is pending. Look, I'm the only person on this stage who put forth a budget plan. And we actually invest in not just public safety, but a reliable public transportation system. The only way we're going to be able to solve the transportation struggle that we have right now is we have to invest. And we actually have an investment plan that not only raises the benefit for those who actually ride in the CTA, but we actually make sure we do it without raising property taxes.
Dr. Wilson.
Well, you have to take and do it a couple ways. One, you got to lower the fare to bring people back on the bus, keep them clean, give people confidence, making sure that people feel good about riding CTA, that they're safe. The other thing is that you got to bring back armed police officers, conductors. You got to take them and lower these taxes. All the money that you can get from the federal government is not going to make it safe.
Thank you. Representative Buckner.
Listen, CTA is not functioning currently very well with the federal money. And so if you're nervous about what's going to happen when the federal money dries up and the fiscal cliff looms, then you should be. The truth of the matter is that we've got to do some things right away. We've got to work with RTA to make this work for everybody. We have to make sure that we can go to Springfield and deal with the fare box ratio issue. We need more reliability of the system so we can increase ridership. We need more efficiency. This is a man-made crisis. The mayor gets to choose the chairperson of the CTA. And the mayor left that position empty for 2 years.
Thank you. Alderwoman King.
Yeah, safety, cleanliness, officers on the platforms. But listen, in order to have a world-class transportation system, we have to collaborate and have a regional approach so that we can use economies of scale. That means we have to work with the state, with the county, with the city. The federal government sees us as competing between the RTA, the CTA, and Metro right now, which is why we only got $29 million. Other regional approaches got hundreds of millions of dollars because they're not competing for municipal resources.
Thank you. Mr. Green.
Well, you know, let me just say I wish our candidates would start to come into a new time to understand that throwing police at every issue is not going to get us out of these crises. We have to attack what's really going on our public transit system, and that's going to be making sure that it's safe, clean, and fast. And a lot of folks on the trains have human issues. They are homeless. It is a mobile homeless shelter right now. And if we don't start to provide temporary housing, actually reopen up every mental health facility that was shut down into wellness centers, if we don't do what's actually working to help folks, we're going to be in this crisis for many more years to come.
Scott and Mike, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Anita. I'd like to shift our focus to the scourge that is car theft in Chicago. These are CPD's numbers during the month of January. Nearly 3,000 cars stolen, 90 a day. And all too often, the victim was in the car at the time. Congressman Garcia, I want to begin with you. As mayor, what are you going to do to curb the crisis of carjackings in Chicago?
First of all, we need an effective leader at the helm at the Chicago Police Department, someone who understands Management 101, and that is the rightful utilization of personnel in the department. We can move more officers to the patrols in the neighborhoods to have a greater presence, whether it's at the CTA L stops to have a greater presence so that they could work with community residents and block clubs and organizations to figure out who are the young people at the greatest potential of engaging in this conduct to prevent it.
Mayor Lightfoot, the narrative is often with these kids, no consequences. This is a real problem here.
So you ask about car thefts. Carjackings are actually down. Car thefts are up, primarily because of the thefts of Hyundai and Kia vehicles. A TikTok phenomenon spread that you can actually jack a Kia or a Hyundai with a thumb drive, and the manufacturers have been wholly unresponsive to this problem. That's why lawsuits have been brought. That's why we've been pressuring them. And finally, we're seeing some relief. But fundamentally, the U.S. Department of Transportation has to make these car manufacturers be more responsive so that cars are not easily stolen with a thumb drive.
She's absolutely right, Alderman, but that's not the entire story. And in some cases, people are dying. What are you going to do about it as mayor?
Obviously, there's a multi-pronged approach. Obviously, we want the police to be more engaged. But I know when we talk about this, we never talk about the youth. We never have an opportunity to talk about how do we engage youth and how they're exhibiting their frustration by acting out, by doing these crazy things like carjacking cars and getting involved in other criminal activity. We have to make some real engagement to youth activity, and one of the things we need to do is look for youth solutions, like the peace book like Good Kids Mad City is proposing to the City Council. We need to look at real solutions that are caused by youth and get solutions just from them and engage them.
Representative Buckner, carjackings, car thefts a problem? And what specifically can we do to stop it, if anything?
It is a problem. It's a huge problem. And the truth of the matter is that the superintendent of the Chicago Police Department told us last summer that the most prolific, and I quote him, the most prolific carjacker in Chicago was an 11-year-old. An 11-year-old, a person who had multiple carjackings under his belt. And what this administration has done to wrap their arms around these young people is give them a curfew. Listen, there's no secret about this. If you don't invest in young people, this will continue to happen. So we have to do the work to make sure we're working with the manufacturers and working with the detectives so we can solve these crimes, but let's start at the root and go from there.
Sophia King, I know this is a problem in your Hyde Park Kenwood neighborhood. Is there anything we can do to reduce it?
Certainly. I've got 2 different police districts. I'm living this right now, 6.5 years. We have to put more officers in the communities where they're needed in all of our communities. We can do that day one right now, up to 50%. That's a huge number, so that they're in our communities during good times, so they can mitigate bad times. Retired officers, bringing them back would do that immediately as well. We have to get to root causes, but we also have to get to the immediacy of crime. And then putting officers in all of the communities where they're needed right now is what we should do.
Jay Mulgreen?
Obviously, the answer is not more police, like the rest of them will say. It is young people.
Why not?
Because if we don't start tackling the root problem, we're going to be here 10, 20 years if we keep on talking about policing. We already have lots of police officers, but what we don't have is youth investment.
So how do we deter that 11-year-old Representative Buckner referenced?
Listen, these young people are out here carjacking. They could be building the cars, but we don't have investment in institutions that invest in them. These young people are out here playing with guns, but they can have hammers, but we're not putting trade back in our school system. We have to do what actually is working to put our young people on the right path, and it's not going to be more police.
Paul Vallis, truancy rates sky high right now. Is that part of the problem?
Oh, that's certainly part of the problem. But let me throw out a statistic. This was the crime lab, University of Chicago crime lab, pointed out that I think a year ago they came out with a report that said 8% of the arrests for murder, it's 9% of the arrests for shootings, almost 50% of the carjackings were committed by school-age youth, 17 years and younger, and 95% of them were not in school. And they also reported that there had been 200 children murdered. Also, same category, 95% of whom were not in school. You have got to get the schools in the game.
Willie Wilson, you've told me before that there aren't enough trade schools at CPS. Is that a solution?
Well, you can't very well work on other solution until you get the crime under control first. You got to stop the killing first. After you stop the killing first, then you can begin to work those other programs together, but you got people dying on the street every day, all right? So just a lot of solutions that we could work on, but unless you take care of those, it ain't gonna happen. So I say this here, like I said before, take the handcuff off the police, these rules and regulations, give them time to catch the people and do those particular things.
Mayor Lightfoot, we'll get to you in a second. Brandon Johnson, a lot of critics say the problem is catch and release. To that you say what?
Yeah, look, 50% of the violence that happens in the city of Chicago happens in 6% of the city, where I'm raising my family. Look, it's why I invested hundreds of millions of dollars into violence prevention, so that we can get at the immediacy and root causes of crime. Look, when unemployment was 30% for white men in this country during the Great Depression, our country called it a national crisis. We have that same unemployment existence within our communities, especially with the young people. That's why my public safety plan doubles the amount of young people that we actually hire. I know what wayward youth look like because I taught them. There's a direct correlation between youth employment and violence reduction. That's what my public safety plan does.
15 seconds, Mayor Lightfoot.
Well, a couple things. One, we have brought the trades back into school, and starting on February 27th, we're going to hold our second annual trade fair at McCormick Place. It's going to have 4,000 young people going through, seeing the trades. But I can't listened to Brandon Johnson talk about, we said, we need more public safety right now. This is the man who said defunding is not a slogan, it's an actual political goal. His goal is to destroy our police department by cutting our officers and making our communities less safe.
Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah, that's just not true. That's ridiculous. My public safety plan that I just released, we spend money on hiring rank and file members to become detectives, to actually free up law enforcement to actually solve crime. We're actually spending money to implement with all expediency the consent decree. We're actually spending money to make sure that young people actually can see their value. My public safety plan is an investment plan, and anything short of that is why we need a new mayor.
All right, Anita?
All right, thank you, gentlemen. So your next question from the audience is this. What will you do to get illegal guns off the streets? For instance, tracing the chain of custody. And we'll begin with Mr. Green.
Well, you know, here's the real issue, right? And we talked about a lot of it today. Obviously, we have a lot of illegal guns, and the reason is because they go across the border and they get those guns. We have to address the root causes of what's going on. And the reality is, I know you talk about Brandon and Lori, both of them are terrible candidates for mayor of the city of Chicago. One is puppeted by a union for political control, and then the mayor, we already know what happened in the last 4 years. We need a new leader that is not tied to any political baggage, that is going to get in and do what works and invest in.
King.
So there's a lot of rhetoric up here, and that's all we hear. We do have folks who want to defund the police. We've got folks who want law and order and want to chase people down like rabbits. But the reality is that most people sit in the middle. We know that we can uplift the police and hold them accountable. We can have safety and justice. We can do this together. We can get to the immediacy of crime and the root causes. We are the city of big shoulders. We can do all of these things if we do it collaboratively and together.
Representative Buckner.
The question was about illegal guns on our streets. Let me answer that specifically. Listen, there's technology that we have to be able to embrace to do this. Better tools for a better fight. We need to do better with ballistics in this city so our folks don't have this long lag time when it comes to solving our crimes. We also have to be able to work better with Springfield and D.C. I'm not the only legislator here, but I'm the only one who's ever been able to pass real legislation to keep our streets safe from guns, like banning assault weapons, as we did a few weeks ago. Listen, we have the ability to do this, but we have to have the political will to move forward on it.
Dr. Wilson?
Well, look, the mayor said she got a program going on the 27th. Well, she gonna be gone by the 28th. Ain't no good, right? And the situation, the comment Ms. King made about the rabbit and some of the other people here tonight, up here, not all of them. But look, they're giving themselves pay raise, automatic pay raises. How you gonna kind of figure, you got a pay raise? Yeah, the mayor put a pay raise for herself. And
only 30 seconds to answer the question.
Oh, you guys,
I get a response, right?
Really, you know? They getting themselves a pay raise while people are struggling and everything and trying to balance the budget.
Mr.
Where we're going to get the
Johnson.
money from. They need
Dr.
to
Wilson, we're moving
get
on to Mr.
themselves-
Johnson.
Get that money back to the citizen.
Thank you.
And just for the record, I'm not going to interrupt anybody tonight. So can we restart my time real quick? I wanted to make sure that he finished. Look, I have the most comprehensive, sweeping public safety plan where we actually have the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. We also have a segment that deals with survivors and victims of violence. Look, we have to actually implement our red flag laws. There are people who are getting guns who shouldn't have guns. The bottom line is you actually have to have a public safety plan that gets at the root causes and the immediacy of the violence that happens in the city of Chicago. I'm the only one with a budget plan. I'm the only one who's telling folks the truth. We're going to invest in people without raising property taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Vallis.
Look, we need to make sure that we have enough detectives. We have one-third the detectives that New York has per capita. Part of the reason they were able to significantly reduce the number of serious crimes. But let me point out that the officers will tell you that they don't have the forensic capabilities to trace the guns. You know, we need a crime lab. I mean, the city this size needs its own independent crime lab because we have to go to Springfield. We have to go to other entities. And detectives will tell you not only are they short in number, but they don't have the capacity to trace and to track.
Mayor Lightfoot.
The question was about what do we do to take illegal guns off the street. Our police officers are doing their job every single year. They took 12,200 illegal guns off the street, double New York and LA combined. They are working with their federal counterparts, particularly at ATF, and we are enforcing the new federal gun trafficking law. We've got to continue to hold violent, dangerous people accountable, and we've got to make sure that the Cook County courts don't simply release them every single time our people risk life and limb to arrest these people. They've got to be held accountable pre-trial.
Thank you. Alderman Sawyer.
Yes, I do believe in accountability and consequences. We want to make sure that if people caught with guns illegally, they serve time. They should do that. But what I've done so far is, I heard someone talk about it, but we've already filed the Office of Gun Violence Prevention Ordinance in City Council right now, which is the intent is to codify the current coordination center. But I have to say something very quickly, because I heard someone say that everybody else is not telling the truth. I've spent my 12 years in council telling the truth every single day, and that kind of taking offense to that, because I heard it say it one more time, more than one time. I tell the truth all the time.
Thank you. Congressman
even when it's
Garcia.
not popular.
As someone who has seen the ravages of gun violence very closely in my community, we passed the first federal gun legislation in 30 years. Key to all of this is investing in young people. I led a bill connecting Youth to Jobs Act that would be an incentive for you to do other things. And lastly, I will lead the charge working with the business community in Chicago, increasing government funding to invest in communities for violence prevention. I've done this work. It works. We have outcomes that come from it. That's how I will lead as mayor.
Thank you. Scott and Mike.
Commissioner Johnson, the enrollment in the Chicago Public Schools is in a free fall, down 40,000 in the last 4 years. 170 schools about half empty, 20 schools nearly entirely empty. Manly, for example, built for 1,300, has 64 students. Not even enough to run many extracurricular programs or many sports teams. When is it time? You, of course, are a veteran staffer for the teachers union. When will the teachers union agree that it's time to consolidate some of these schools and to spend our money more wisely?
Look, as a public school teacher, I can tell you I've seen the devastations of poor investment. And everybody knows that wherever Paul Vallis has been in charge of the finances in the city, no matter what city he was in, he was fired. Look, we are living out the
But can I ask, what are we going to do about 20 schools
we got to talk about how
that are almost empty?
We got to talk about how we got here. You can't talk about solutions if we're not being honest about how we got here. And the fact of the matter is that the poor financing proclivities of Paul Vallis is how we ended up in this mess. That's why I'm a proponent of sustainable community schools, making sure that we are investing not just in early childhood education, but investing in bilingual education. We have to get our fiscal house in order, but we can't do it by going backwards to a failed policies of Paul Vallis.
Mr. Vallis?
Well,
Three bells.
I'll let people fact check that. After all, getting praised by 3 presidents for our reforms in Chicago. And I hate to say this, Brandon, but besides negotiating 2 collective bargaining agreements without a strike or ever shutting down schools, we left the schools with $1 billion in cash balances and 125,000 more students than they have today. So, I mean, those are just facts. But let me tell you something very quickly. Right now, there are 56,000 kids who attend charter schools, and they are not allowed to occupy public school buildings. So if you wanted to fill those empty buildings, you could allow those public charter school children to move their operations into those buildings.
Willie Wilson, you have said that you would close some of these nearly empty schools and sell the properties and put the money back in the system or repurpose it for affordable housing. If with the teachers union fighting you hammer and tongs on that, how do you do it?
Well, one thing about it, as a business person, we've been successful in everything we've done. I think that, look, we can get in and make this work and balance the budget by lowering taxes, giving school teachers a decent salary, off days that they can work 2 months out of a year when they're off to motivate them. Do all these different things, be creative, and get the corporation people involved to help make this thing work. We have to do it together.
Sophia King, CPS loves to tout the 80% graduation rate. What we don't hear a lot about is that too many of these kids are scoring in single digits in proficiency for math and 15% in reading. I don't need to tell you the real world's a tough place. How are we going to bring these numbers, this disparity together?
Yeah. So listen, I agree that Paul has left a lot of devastation in schools in his wake, but I'm truly more concerned that he is waffling on a woman's right to choose. But back to the schools, education, if we don't have safety and good schools, people are going to continue to leave our city in droves and aren't going to come back. So we need to incentivize our teachers to stay. There are two professions where we throw everything at their feet that we are unable to solve. That is teachers and police, and they are leaving faster than we can hire them. We have to incentivize them to stay here.
J-Mo Green, you're a community activist. You're out on the streets. You're talking to these young people. Do you ever get the sense that they're excited about going to school, about learning?
No. Well, you know, CPS doesn't have the proper investment that it needs, which is why the state needs to change the formula from enrollment-based formula to needs-based formula. Every school in the city of Chicago needs the proper investment. And they're teaching to standardize testing. We have to move into modern times and start to teach kids correctly and give the wraparound services that they need, because they're dodging bullets on the way to school, hungry, homeless, and then you sit them in a classroom and tell them to learn 2 + 2. It doesn't make sense. We must invest in our school buildings and put the right funding structure in place.
Cam Buckner, we've got a generation of kids who have left college and they're living with mom and dad. I can't imagine you want that for yourself. What are you going to do with your kids? How do you ensure that you give them everything they need and that they get everything they need out of their school?
Listen, we have to rebuild this system. The CPS system is not working the way it's supposed to. And when you see empty buildings and you see these empty promises, it's indicative of our proclivity to leave black children behind, to leave brown children behind, and to leave poor children behind. That should not be the way that the city operates. Listen, I've talked a lot about making sure we have a librarian, a social worker in each and every school, and a nurse, stopping the privatization and the corporatization of CPS. It is not a business conglomerate. It is a district, a school district for our young people, and we've got to get that right.
Alderman Sawyer, we've talked about the problems the schools face and the problems so many of the students face who have difficulty reading and doing math at grade level. 45% of Chicago public school kids are chronically absent, according to a state report. It seems to me that some of these problems are related. Would you do anything to get kids back in the classroom?
First of all, I would like to explore the options of reestablishing a truancy department. We need to find out where these kids are, what they're doing, and if necessary, get them back into schools. But as we're talking about schools and we're talking about buildings, we're never talking about the most important thing again, is educating our children, the future of our city, the future of our nation. When we're talking about schools, and although I do support the moratorium that's in place currently, we need to start now about talking about how to reuse these schools properly. I was a part of the original conversation before the last administration unilaterally got rid of the schools. We need to have that conversation, and a robust conversation at that.
Congressman Garcia.
Because Chicago is shrinking, we're experiencing all kinds of problems. What I would do as mayor and as a grandfather of 5 grandkids in the public schools today, I would convene a summit to invite parents and community residents and everyone to help figure out how we rally around our schools, to improve them, to find the children that aren't showing up, and to work to increase funding, because only when we can resource all schools are we going to instill confidence that children should come back, that our schools are on the rebound, and that we can educate everyone.
Mayor Lightfoot, why are 45% of Chicago school kids
So here's what I want to say, Mike. I'm listening to your questions. I'm listening to the answers of the colleagues. This may be the Fox News perspective on the city of Chicago and CPS. It's not the reality that I live in every single day.
Well,
you have disparaged
our report says 45%.
Let me finish, please. You asked me a question, I'd like to finish. You are characterizing our kids that are exceeding all odds, working hard every day. And yes, the graduation rates are up despite the pandemic. Yes, they're getting scholarships at an amazing level. You're describing them as if they're dumb, lazy, and not doing anything.
That's absolutely false.
That is the
question,
premise.
actually, Madam Mayor, the question was about the 45% of kids who are chronically absent.
Here's what I know.
Why are they not in class?
Here's what I know, Mike. The reality, and I'd invite you to come with me sometime to an elementary school or high school, and here's what you would see. Building principals, doing everything they can to knock on doors literally to bring those kids back. Yeah, we lost some kids during remote learning, but we have gotten them back. Here's what I also know, that we have put in a ton of resources to make sure that those kids that are struggling, that they have a place in school, that they are learning, and that they are thriving. That is the reality. Do Do we have challenges? Absolutely. But I do not accept the premise of the last 4 questions that describe CPS in such a
We've got to
disparate
move on.
manner.
I want to talk a little bit about business. For the past several weeks, you 9 have been battle tested, and the topics have largely been about big business. I want to focus on mom and pop. I want to talk about small business. Q4 of last year saw new business leases in the city fall by 60% compared to Q4 from the year before. I want to start with you, Alderman Sawyer. I want to ask you, what are you going to do as mayor to bring small business? I don't want to talk about McDonald's and Citadel. I want to talk about the mom and pop shops. What are you going to do to bring them, to lure them back to Chicago?
First of all, we need to be aware that we need to really focus on each of the 77 communities. Each one should be sustainable. They all should have their own grocery stores. They should all have their own theaters and entertainment districts. They should all have professional services. Everyone should be self-sustainable. This is what I would concentrate on, making sure we have real communities and real community investment in there. We would take the plans that are currently be operated from the last 2 administrations, refocus that toward our, making sure we have a laser-focused effort toward our small businesses, making sure that as they grow and expand, we provide appropriate funding for them.
Congressman, same question to you.
I live in a community that has one of the most successful neighborhood shopping strips in the city, that little village, 26th Street. Part of what I would do as mayor is to bring together chambers of commerce, community development corporations, other organizations as well, to figure out strategies to embark on comprehensive community development strategies that are holistic, that take into account schools, health clinics, shopping areas, as well as ensuring that there's good transit to those areas. It's got to be a comprehensive approach.
Mayor Lightfoot.
Well, what we have done is invested over $100 million in our small businesses to keep them open, keep their employees employed, and make sure that that money is recirculating in communities. We have worked extensively and continue to do so with local chambers and neighborhood business organizations to provide that technical support. We've opened up pop-up stores for local entrepreneurs and vacant storefronts so they get the opportunity to be in a bricks and mortar setting to sell their wares, and that's been incredibly successful.
So, Alderman Sophia King, one of your ward was home to one of my favorite restaurants. Unfortunately, it's closed, as many have during the pandemic and since. Barely half of downtown office workers have come back to the Loop and the downtown area. That's devastating downtown restaurants and cultural institutions. What would you do to bring those workers back?
Yeah, so we have a plan that talks about making Chicago the Silicon Valley of the Midwest. And that's something that we have to implement. We have to incentivize businesses to come back. We have to rethink what business looks like. We need a live-work environment there. But we have the best city in Chicago. But all of our talent is leaving. We've got some of the best universities. We've got affordability. We have all of the ingredients for a great city. We need the political will to get it done, and leading with collaboration is the way to do it.
Jamal Green, how would you bring those 350,000 workers back downtown?
Well, you know, there's a bunch of things that we must do. We are one that put out a plan that talked about how we would invest in a Mag Mile so that we can turn into a district of experiences, so that it's a place where people can go.
I think that's tourist-oriented. How would you bring those commuters who were just here every day a couple years ago?
Well, you know, safety is a big issue, right? And we have to have things or places for them to come to experience something different. We have to change our model, and we got to have vision here. Now, at the end of the day, and you also talked about small businesses, we have to bring more small businesses to our city that lure people to these small businesses. So we would give them a first business license free, we'll streamline the process, and we would stop targeting business owners and make them our partners.
Cam Buckner, that's part of downtown is within your legislative district.
It is.
Why have those workers not returned? Clearly some of them, it's estimated 14 or 15% of them may be permanently online, but the rest maybe you're moving elsewhere. How do we get them back downtown?
The first thing, as we've heard tonight, is about public safety. But what we also have to do is make sure that we're being friendly to the businesses that are going to help us grow. Listen, I'm a pro-business progressive, and the work that I've put forth in this race is about making sure we do that. We've got to cut the red tape at BACP. We got to streamline the permitting process. We got to have technical assistance, and we have to have a specialized unit for our hospitality folks who are trying to do this work every day. Listen, the mayor will tell you that we are doing this, but the facts show us different. Just because you put syrup on it doesn't make it pancakes.
Commissioner, there are a lot of surveys from former Chicagoans. Why'd you leave? They talk about gas taxes and property taxes and cost of living. As mayor, how are you going to keep from leaving?
Yeah, public safety is still a big deal. And that's what's choking the life out of the city of Chicago, literally and figuratively. That's why I've put forth a budget plan, the only person to do that, where we actually eliminate the debt while increasing our critical investments. And we do all of that without raising property taxes. Look, if you want a better, stronger city, you have to invest in people. That's why the Sun-Times called my plan the tax the rich plan. And if you ask me which side I'm going to stand on, working people or the ultra rich, you know where I stand.
What's your message, Paul Vallis, to tax-free Chicagoans?
Look, let me tell you something. Talking about irresponsible plans that will drive people out. Imposing an income tax, even if it's on commuters, is not going to bring people back into the city.
There's not an income tax imposed.
Originally proposing. Secondly, imposing.
This is what I mean by when people lie. There is no income tax.
Allow him to finish, please.
Can I respond? Secondly, imposing a head tax. The head tax. How many years did it take for us to get rid of the head tax? Like 20 years? A head tax punishes businesses. Taxing downtown businesses, imposing a tax on jet fuel. Shall I go on and on and on? The bottom line is this is a tax killer plan. So when
Willie Wilson, you can't give away free food and gas forever. What are you going to do as mayor?
Well, let's put it this way. In the last 35 or 40 years, I've given away over $60 to $70 million to a lot of people who's hungry. A lot of people who lost loved ones. A lot of people have paid people taxes because the city haven't done what they're supposed to do. Face masks ain't nobody have it. Gave away 60 million face masks because I could have made at least $60 million on it. Didn't charge nobody anything for it. All right? The mayor couldn't do it, didn't do it. You got to lower the taxes. You got to get rid of the crime. You got to understand business. It may not be fair for you to ask me that question because I'm the only business person up here. Yeah. So I understand business. I know the struggle of business. I am a business, all right? And you got to take and deal with these situations the right way. You got to have an anchor downtown for big business, because big business create a lot of small business.
Thank you.
Commissioner, 15 seconds, please.
Yeah, look, it's simple. My public safety plan, which is the most comprehensive plan that's available, my budget plan, I put it out there because I believe you have to tell people the truth. And the truth of the matter is the folks on here who have not put forth a budget plan, they're going to raise your property taxes. I'm not. I'm going to tax the rich, just like Joe Biden said, that Anita? A firefighter and a teacher should not be paying the same tax rate as a billionaire.
Anita,
Thank you. This next question from the audience is about migrants. Recently, we have seen bus loads of migrants arriving here in Chicago. Much has been made about where they've been housed. Your question is, what is your long-term plan regarding arriving migrants? We'll begin with Congressman Garcia.
Thank you. As an immigrant who came to the city in 1965 at the age of 9, I am close to the experience that many immigrants in Chicago have experienced. Chicago became a sanctuary city when Harold Washington, and I stood with him, declared it in 1985. It's a proud legacy. We need to continue to have open arms, but when we're going to settle people in neighborhoods, we need to engage them. We need to let them know what the plan is and to ask for their buy-in. In Chicago, people have big hearts. When you do that, you avoid conflict and you continue the great tradition of welcoming people who are fleeing violence and persecution from whatever country they may come from.
Alderman Sawyer.
This problem is very serious. Of course, we want to make sure that we help the migrants as they're coming here from the southern area of the United States and other areas. But we also have to engage the current residents. I live right next to Woodlawn, and I had an opportunity to speak to several of the residents there. It's not that they don't want to help the migrants. They just feel that they're being left out and they're not being helped. So we want to be able to do both. We want to make sure that we help those that are coming in that need that assistance, but we have a whole lot of people here that needed assistance. They feel that they're just not getting it.
Mayor Lightfoot.
Look, I think the biggest challenge that we face right now with the migrants who have come to our city, who are here legally, they have to be able to work. This is a national problem. What Governor Abbott did was an absolute disgrace, but they are here in our city and they have to be able to work. And the federal government has to create a pathway for them to be able to transition from the shelter system into gainful employment. I can put every single one of these able-bodied adults to work today if the federal government would give them the authorization to work. It's not right, it's not fair, and frankly, it's un-American that we invite these folks here, we let them live legally in our cities, but then we don't allow them to work and be able to take care of themselves and take care of their families. That is the #1 issue that we're facing. I've talked to the White House about it. I've talked to the Homeland Security Secretary, the Secretary of Labor. We must get these folks work permits now.
Paul Vallis.
Look, there's no reason why all 6 dozen of our neighborhoods can't be welcoming communities too. So rather than singling out neighborhoods, and suddenly announcing that we're going to build centers or open centers or convert schools into neighborhoods, we need to engage the neighbors. But what we also need to do is to reach out and allow people to basically be served in all the neighborhoods. In addition, we need to get public housing in the game. You have thousands and thousands of vacant CHA units that are not occupied. I mean, the CHA is literally out there operating on their own with no accountability. So one of the things that I would do is get the CHA out of the game and even bring the CHA under the control of the housing department so we begin to use it as an asset, a public housing asset.
Brandon Johnson.
Yeah, look, governors who are using human beings as political football, is absolutely sick. But you have to have a plan. You have to have a collaborative approach to how we welcome individuals who are seeking refuge here in Chicago. Look, my family, Great Migration, 57 North. Delia Ramirez got here crossing over many terrains, right? The same Cook County Hospital that delivered Delia Ramirez, Congresswoman, who supports me, is the same Cook County Hospital that provided me with health care because I grew up with asthma. There's enough for everyone. We have to invest in the people that are here and be prepared with a plan to welcome those who are also seeking support here in the city of Chicago. We can do both.
Dr. Wilson.
I'm a little different. Look, the mayor said she talked to the White House, but she didn't talk to the people in Chicago. Period. Look, I'm for helping all people, but we got to help the ones at home first. I cannot invite someone into my house unless I know who it is and prepared to take care of them. I'm not with that yet. Let me be able to take care of home first. Then I can invite somebody to my home, right? If you're going to go and ask somebody for $50 million down in Springfield, Washington, D.C., she haven't asked people for $50 million to help the people right here. And they're out on the street. So I just don't agree with that. I think you got to take care of home first. Like me and Mayor, we're going to take care of the citizens of Chicago first and prepare for anybody else that moved in.
Representative Buckner, thank you.
We can't just be a sanctuary city in word. We have to be it in deed. It can't just be our mission statement. It has to actually be our mission. Listen, my wife Bernadette and I, she's a first-generation American. We volunteered just a few days ago at the Fourth Presbyterian Church with asylum seekers that came here. We met a grandmother from Venezuela who had an 8-year-old daughter, 8-year-old granddaughter, and a 17-year-old grandson. And to see the pain in their eyes and their faces, we've got to do better and make sure we, 1, have a plan, and 2, commit to that plan. We've got to work with Washington, D.C. to make this work. 150 days for a work permit is way too long. This is why I fought in Springfield to make sure that we send more money to the city of Chicago to deal with this and to deal with it in an inclusive way so we can move the city forward and be the true welcoming city that we're supposed to be.
Alderwoman King.
Yeah, so being a welcoming city is not the question. It's the process. And we have to have a collaborative process in order to do that. Listen, we welcomed migrants into the ward when they came, but we also welcomed the homeless during the COVID pandemic into our ward as well. It's the tension there, the tension of not taking care of your own and taking care of others who are just coming in. But in a crisis, we should be prepared for crises all the time. They happen all the time. There should be a process that's collaborative so that we can work together and get things done.
Mr. Green?
You know, I'm one that agrees that we can do both and we have to take care of people that are here. But the reason that we're in this crisis, you look on the stage. You have someone at the federal government, you got a congressman, you got an alderman, mayor, state rep, commissioner. What are they doing right now in the jobs that they're doing? They're up here trying to lobby for another job when they aren't doing the jobs that they're doing correctly. Let's be serious. So when we talk about the people getting the services in the neighborhoods, let's look at the people who control the services right now. We have to do both, but we got to make sure that the people in the communities get the services that they need. And then as a welcoming city, we will welcome those with a good fiscal plan on how we're going to do it long term.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I'll send it back to you, gentlemen, for final thoughts.
Yes. We'd like to allow each of our candidates a final thought. 40 seconds. Jamal Green, we'd like to begin with you.
Well, listen, I know you heard a lot of noise up here from politicians with many ideas. Many of them they stole from me because they just want to be the older. They want to be the older versions of me. It's a lot of ageism. But listen, we need a leader that really cares about all people, that is going to take an innovative approach, that's going to make sure that every person in this city gets the basic human rights, that's going to create a safer city for our young people, for my kids and yours. I'm here because I'm not want to be in politics for long term. I'm here because I want to make an impact on the next generation. I know I could do it as mayor of the city of Chicago. Go to gogreenchicago.com right now and support our candidacy so we can create a future that we can all believe in together.
Sophia King.
Yes. With 16 of my colleagues leaving and all the instability, we need a mayor that leads with collaboration, not confrontation, to make sure that we move this city forward in the way that it deserves to be moved. We also need a mayor that understands how to bring the entire city together. I represent from downtown to Hyde Park, Bronzeville in the middle. The #1 request I get is for more police presence because of the unwieldy crime, no matter where I am. But you understand that we can uplift our police and hold them accountable. We can have safety and justice. We don't have to choose between these false narratives.
Cam
a
Buckner.
safe Chicago is a strong Chicago.
Cam Buckner, we are coming up on a hard out.
Okay. The great Chicago planner Daniel Burnham once said, "Make no small plans." Unfortunately, in this race, many of my colleagues have made no plans at all. You need to hear specifics. I'm a son of Chicago who loves Chicago, who's raising my son in Chicago, and who's doing the work to move us forward. I'm running for the people of Chicago who love Chicago, but who just want Chicago to love them back. Listen, the past is not our fault, but the future will be. And that's why I'm asking for your support, so together we can do the work to move Chicago forward.
Willie Wilson.
Well, look, I'm running for mayor. I'm not going to take a paycheck. I'm running from the heart. I'm running for mayor to help get rid of crime, lower taxes, keep our businesses here, and for the people. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to make false promises, nothing like that. I'm going to just see what we get right here. Now, these politicians is working another job and getting paid running for another one. Who really cares about Chicago?
Commissioner?
Yeah, my wife and I, we're raising our 3 children, Owen, Ethan, and Braden, on the west side of Chicago, and we love it. A better, stronger, safer Chicago, we have to have it. And what I want for my family, I want for every single family in the city of Chicago. There's a reason why my campaign is catching fire. Because no matter where you live in this city, Ravenswood or Inglewood, South Side, West Side, a better, stronger, safer Chicago is possible if you actually have a mayor who loves people. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invest in people. Join this movement. BrandonForChicago.com and Punch 5.
Paul Vallis.
Look, this election is about leadership, a crisis in leadership, because every single problem the city is experiencing, from a degraded police department, deteriorating schools, or ever-increasing property taxes, fines, and fees, is really a product of bad decisions from the 5th floor. And it didn't begin with this mayor, but it certainly has gotten worse. So this is why we're running, to bring the type of leadership to the city that can, in a sense, bring the resources in terms of the human resources, draw from the community the type of leaders who can move the city forward.
Mayor Lightfoot.
Every single person that's running in this race sincerely loves our city. They wouldn't put themselves out if they didn't believe sincerely that they had answers and plans. But the difference between me and every other person in this race is I'm not here to spin you, to give rhetoric, to give sound bites. I'm here to remind you of the concrete solutions that we have worked on together to improve the quality of life in our city, whether it was COVID, whether public safety, whether stitching back together the social safety net. Every single time that we've faced a challenge, we've been able to address it for the betterment of the people of the city by coming together. on common solutions.
Roderick Sawyer.
Thank you. I've been proud of the 12 years I've been on this council. I've been a part of some impactful legislation, and oftentimes not with the direct support of the appropriate administration. But let me tell you this. I've been doing this work for 12 years. I'm a lawyer, but I don't practice. I'm a real estate broker. I don't practice. I do this job because I love what I do. I have no safety net. I know a lot of people on this stage do. I'm doing this because I love my city and I love what I do. I want to continue to help this city grow and prosper. Vote for Roderick Sawyer.
Congressman Garcia.
40 years ago, I got involved in politics when my best friend and political mentor was murdered in front of his 2-year-old child. We fought to make Chicago politics clean. We fought to make sure that politics worked for everyone in every community. Today, I'm running for mayor of Chicago because I don't want people to lose hope that we can have a better city. We can have better government that works for everyone. So tonight, I ask the people of Chicago, don't give up hope, and we can make this happen if we stick together.
Thank you all very much.